I'm Yvette Frazier,
I'm KayLee Michelle.
and we're mad about domestic violence.
Cassandra here, and we have a special interview today. So, through the eyes of a parent, through the eyes of a child. And it's kind of weird, or it's kind of interesting, because it's my parent and my child. So we have here today, through the eyes of a parent, Yvette Frazier, and through the eyes of a child, KayLee Michelle. So we have a few questions for them today, so y'all get to see a little bit into my personal situation. And also, it was so hard to get people to do this interview because it hits home so much. But if not me, then who? So we're gonna start off, and we're gonna ask my mom, Yvette Frazier, first question. What was your first thoughts when you learned about me being in a domestic violence situation?
It was shocking. Knowing you as a child, I know that you are a no-nonsense type of person. So it was shocking because I knew that things probably wouldn't end well.
Interesting.
So it was shocking.
So just to give you a little history, I'm a fighter, which was part of my issue with domestic violence. My first thoughts wasn't to get out of the situation, but to hit back. So my responses in those situations wasn't quite right. Just to kind of give you a history of why she may have been shocked about it. So KayLee, I have to ask you, how did you feel when you continuously heard me and your father arguing?
I was upset at y'all. I was upset at y'all.
You were upset?
Yeah, because I didn't want y'all to get unengaged.
Okay.
So I was kind of mad at you both, so that's why I always told you guys to stop because I didn't want y'all to get divorced.
Okay. So that's a real answer. You was mad and you was shocked. So we got real emotions and real feelings here. So what do you feel that the appropriate response to a child in domestic violence from a parent should be? How do you feel like parents should respond when their children are in those situations?
Well, I mean, if you're still with the person, the only thing that I can do is give affirmations, give you emotional support, and encouragement until you're, emotionally or mentally ready to get out of the situation.
Okay. That's a good answer. Thankfully, I have a really supportive mama. She don't really be all of my business like some of y'all parents. But she does have her suggestions and, like you said, her affirmations. She'll send some words of encouragement. So my mom was like really nice, y'all. So she's actually like been nice to some of my relationships in the past. I'm like, just be mean to them, but that's not her character. So it would kind of upset me when she would still speak to them after knowing what was going on. But in all honesty, I was still with that person. And my issues shouldn't have affected who she was or who she is as a person. So KayLee, talking about the effects of situations, how did being able to, or being when you were hearing those fights and those arguments, how did that affect your education when you were going to school?
I don't know how it affected because I never did bad. So I guess I wouldn't say it was good because I still would get in trouble a lot. But it didn't affect it that much.
Okay. So as a parent with her education, she said it didn't affect her a lot. She would get in trouble sometimes. I knew that she would act out at school, or I might get a response from her teacher after a night that me and her father had fought. Or I know that the first time it hit home for me and I figured out it was affecting my children was when I got letters from the school board because they had missed like more than 10 days of school. So that hit home for me that I needed to do something because it was in turn affecting their education with tardies, of course, late nights arguing, cause with early mornings getting up for school, it just caused issues. So I'm happy it didn't really affect you as much as I thought it did. So last question. What advice would you give a parent who wants to help their child get out of a domestic violence situation, but their child is not ready?
Well, I would equate that with addiction.
Okay.
If a person is not ready to get out of addiction, domestic violence, or any situation that's affecting them mentally or socially or affecting their overall well-being, then the only advice I could give is to educate your child, pray for their child, and just hope for the best, because that is an individual decision that needs to be made.
Okay. My mom was very supportive with my transition. I actually wind up leaving with my $37.50. I left in your car. I packed up your car. I didn't even have a car. I packed up her car, got my children, and we actually wound up living with her for about 6 months. So through that time, I was able to kind of rebuild. I was able to do a lot of exercise, and I would go to the gym like in the morning and at night. And through exercise, that was one of my release and one of the ways that I was able to heal. So I actually had a lot of support through my transition. So KayLee, what advice would you give a child whose parents are continuously arguing and going through domestic violence situations? What advice would you give them?
I would give them the advice to tell them to stop and tell them to talk it out, just like I did with you.
So KayLee was the referee in our situation. There was times when she would literally get in between us and tell us to stop arguing, stop fussing, stop fighting, like y'all need to work this out. And at that time, KayLee's 9, so at that time she was like 3 or 4. So I want to take a moment to thank both of you for sharing your insight with us today, all of your personal views. And is there anything else that you want to say to the people? KayLee?
If you're having a hard time with your parents, or if your parents fight, don't be mad or angry like I was. Talk it out with them.
That's great.
I just want people to know that domestic violence is a cowardly act that should never happen. The most that we could do is support, pray, educate, and never let the person feel like it's their fault. As a parent, I would never want to lose my child. I would never want anyone else to lose their child. So it's something that I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to get involved or whatever, but we don't want to see our young people perish either. So whatever we could do to try to end domestic violence, I think we should do.